what I'm trying to achieve is actually to get to the starting line. So in the start of this discussion, I had been looking at a diagram from the book, and I wanted to sort of recreate this or recreate some of it. In the book, in the first chapter, this is a talked through example, so to speak. And I wanted to take a crack at implementing parts of it to make it do that, to have a hit counter that does it through at events and so on and so forth. And the first step I was taking was to set up a tool called Sockeye, which is this tool here. Sockeye is a very useful tool for checking that you have things connected together with CloudEvents. It provides a GUI, essentially, that lets you see. Is there a screenshot here? Shame on you, Scott. It gives you a graphical user interface in a web browser that you can use to inspect CloudEvents. You can send CloudEvents to it as one of those destinations, and it will come up. And the frustration has been is that now I've run into debugging Kubernetes/Knative, which is not what I was hoping to do, unfortunately. Okay, so dum. Sockeye not ready. Yes, unfortunately, I know. So let's have a look at a little closer. Service describe, if I remember correctly, is the command. Sockeye. No. Yes. No. Yes. Yes. Okay, so what have I got? Ingress not configured. Now I have to refresh my memory. Yes, down the rabbit hole. I like the expression shaving yaks. This is definitely yak shaving territory. So this is where, for example, having done like a week of prep would have paid off, probably. Although then I would have just found different yaks, let's face it. Apparently this is a popular issue for people to report. This rings a bell because one of the things you have to do is tell it that it's courier. Now let's see if that is in fact a thing. Well, it should be. Actually, I can also try and find this config map to see if it got applied the way that I think it should have been applied. So I can do where does it live? It lives in Knative Serving. So, and it's called config domain. So I'm going to go cm config domain namespace Knative Serving. Ing. There we go. That is not what I wanted. It's what I said, but it's not what I wanted. Describe. Okay. Oh, I'm still in the example. That is not what I expected at all. At all. Incidentally, you can see Cap here puts a bunch of metadata to help you keep track of things, which is pretty neat. So this is the example configuration. And that's a problem because the example configuration is not this configuration. This configuration is the one that tells all sorts of stuff. And actually, I'll have a look at config network as well. Config domain. So these are all configuration settings for Knative itself. They're mostly meant for the use of operators. But if you, as a developer, have installed Knative directly yourself, then there's a whole bunch of stuff under here. The defaults are basically okay 90% of the time, 99% of the time even. As I was sort of enthusing earlier, there are some very smart folks who've worked on this. So for reasons that are known best to the vengeful gods, this was not applied. It didn't get picked up by Cap. I have broken something or fatfigged something. Something is kaflooey, and that's a terrible shame. So I'm going to do the thing where I do it by hand. So I'm going to apply a file. Am I in the right place? Yes. And it's in the code directory. And what is it called again? Domain config map. Okay. So my hypothesis here is going to be that these things that you currently see on the screen on the right-hand side of my screen, which is the default out-of-the-box configurations, will be replaced with the ones that I have provided. Qpaddle may in fact complain about me doing that. Yeah, so it's warning me at least that I shouldn't do what I just did. And in fact, Cap will be mad because I have moved things underneath it. And by doing this, I have destroyed the metadata that Cap does. So don't do what I did. It's naughty and bad. But I done did it. And do I get an improvement? I do. Yay, the routes are ready. Okay, nip.io. is one of those reflection services that's very helpful. Since I have this in the name that gets sent to the domain servers that are responsible for this top level domain, it will echo that back as the IP address. So it's a tremendously useful capability. And here we go. This is what I was getting to as my first intermediate, beginning, starting, doing stuff step towards the commencement of the journey. But we had to shave a herd of yaks first. So it doesn't look very exciting at the moment. What I need to do is quickly consult my notes on the side, which all look the same thanks to the magic of fonts. What I'm looking for at the moment is a command that will tunnel into the Kubernetes cluster, because as I was saying earlier, CloudEvents player is very good at sending stuff within the cluster. I want to be able to do it from outside the cluster in the interests of I like terminals. And to do that, I have to tunnel into the inside of Kubernetes. Yes, this is a bit of a hack. And I hope you will not sort of like derive life lessons from it. But this is a command that you can use in kubectl. And what it will do is it will essentially forward a port from on my computer into the inside of the cluster. If all of that seems unclear, I'm tragically sad. But mostly it's a hack. There are better ways of doing this if I wasn't doing a demo, or if I wasn't writing a book where the thing is really to demonstrate the principles. And I hope that administrators have set things up properly. So I'm going to sort of shrink that down there. Okay, so the important thing now is that I have the correct conditions, the routes are ready, configurations ready, and ready. I'm going to get rid of this one because this is where I was doing a bunch of debugging. I don't need it anymore. This makes this much larger than I really care for. So I'm going to use command to make this full screen, and I'm going to clear it. Now, I, in my other terminal, have a port forwarded, and this is where I do some more copying and pasting from my other thing, which is where I'm actually going to create an event. And there are a bunch of numbers in here because I've copied and pasted code that has sort of like line numbers to specify things. You know what? Let's not do text editing in a, terminal. And all of you who are Vim fans can chew. I am not a Vim fan. I am a fan of real editors. Even though, unfortunately, there isn't really like an editor type for multi-line whatever. So these numbers are actually references that are used in the text in the book itself. There's often a listing with numbers next to sort of things that I want to call out and discuss, and then underneath there will be a numbered list related to it. So I'm going to be mysterious here and not tell you anything just yet about what this magical incantation is doing. And, you know, in the interest of cheating, I'm going to sort of say, take a guess, take your best guess, have a crack in the comments about what you think I'm about to do. So again, here is the command I'm about to run. I'm using the fish shell, by the way. That's why I got rid of that dollar symbol. And I would be interested in your guesses. I'd be interested in also what you think will show up momentarily, if Alt Tab will work for me. Cool, I can't see it anymore. Oh, because it's on the other screen. Too many screens. What we're going to see in here in a second, since you're all putting up the hands in the class. Create a new event. Yes, exactly. So, you know, you'll remember that I've got a tunnel there, and default is some magic we'll discuss in a moment. But these are the 4 core fields that you're going to have on every single cloud event in order to be a cloud event. I'm using HTTP for my HTTP requests. I just do that because I'm a bit of a hipster, as you can tell. And because curl's command line is, I don't know, it's a thing. I never feel like I understand that I never feel like the thing I reach for in curl is the thing I wanted. Like I'm constantly sort of having to learn, like they must be well into sort of, you know, secondary pre-Greek in alphabets by now to express all the different command line flags. Okay, so one of the nice things about it is I get this really pretty return thing. And one of the not nice things about it is I'm seeing internal server error. Why do I see internal server error? I felt very strongly that that would not be the case. Oh, why are you clipping that? That's just mean. Okay. What do we have? Internal server error. This is an example. That's what I said. I guess one question is, did it ever show up in CloudEvents? No, it didn't, because I have not told anything to target it. So that's entirely my fault. One thing about this apparatus is that I sent it to the default broker. It's slightly obscured by this URL, but essentially this will pick a service called default. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Vile. And essentially I'm looking, default namespace. And in this case, the default broker in the default namespace. So brokers are an important part of the universe of Knative Eventing. As the name suggests, they receive things, they do clever stuff with it, and then they send them to a different place. And the most important things that exist are triggers. So right now I can say a whole bunch of stuff. I can say, what brokers do you have? Let me say it again. What brokers do you have? No brokers. Well, that's probably a bad sign. That might be why. As a starting position, I don't have a broker. So do I have create? Let's try create default. Okay, that sounds plausible. Default successfully created in namespace default. Okay, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to try sending that cloud event again. So I got a 500 because there was nothing listening. And that's entirely my fault. I think I will get a 202 this time, like an accepted message back, because the broker doesn't have to do anything with your cloud event. It can just accept it. Hey, I was right. Okay, and we should still not see anything in cloud events, in Sockeye rather, because I haven't wired it up. So the broker is the first step. And what does a broker do? The broker's job is to hold essentially a collection of what are called triggers. The trigger is two components, and I probably have a pretty diagram here, which lets me wave a mouse pointer at it enthusiastically. Let me just scroll through my diagrams on the other side. I would do it in front of you, but that would ruin the magic. These are all very interesting, Jacques, but they're not what I want. Wow, that one's got a lot of parts. Okay, yeah, this is more or less what I'm talking about. The broker is, you can sort of think of as this jagged box here, and inside the box are what are called triggers. Each one of these gray boxes represents a trigger, and within each trigger there are two components. There is the filter, which is some criteria saying I'm interested in messages with this characteristic or shape or what have you. And then there's the subscriber. It's like, if it shows up, where does the message go? So right now, the broker happily took the cloud event that I submitted. It didn't do anything with it because there are no triggers. And I can verify that by asking KN. I should have trigger list. And behold, no triggers were found. Now, if I remember correctly, I also have a trigger create. Now, let's have a look at this. Trigger create Sockeye source. Well, yes, okay, source. Filter source equals combo example. Okay, and sync Sockeye. So let's do this for the moment. Okay, so now I have a trigger. I can look at that. And what happens? So the first thing that I would probably do is to try my post again. I know for a fact it's going to fail, but I often like to see things fail. I know that sounds really weird. Like a big part of test-driven development is, does the thing fail? And if it fails, did it fail in the way I expected it to fail? You never really know if your test tests something unless you test your test. And I don't mean like write test for your test. I mean like just poke it with a stick and, sort of like flip a plus to a minus in your code and see if the test detects it, that sort of thing. Okay, so this is a thing. And the reason that I had this problem, if I look at this, is source. I have /example/source, but in my command here, I said source would be com.example.sockeye. Right, so, interesting. I'm using different styles for type and source in these two different things. Don't do that. This means that at the moment, if I send the event I've been sending with ce-source/example/source, it doesn't match anything, right? There's no match in the list of triggers. And so the broker says, cool story, dude, and just ignores it, basically drops it on the floor. I mean, the implementations can vary. You can have different brokers, but the one I'm thinking of more or less does this, unless I'm wrong. Scott points out this is where graph would help me visualize what I was making. I promise I will try it. I really promise. So what we can do real quick. Oh, that was unhelpful. I didn't want that to go away at all. I wanted to be able to see that. Calm example socket. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. To the example. Socket. I should get a 202. And what I expect now, is to see the event. So what's happened? What's happened is I have sent an event from my terminal. It has tunneled through Blackmagic into Kubernetes, where it has reached the broker. The broker has looked at it and said, okay, I see a source and I see a type. And we had said, if anything with this source comes in, send it to Sockeye. Now that was the gist of this command. We basically said, if you see source equals this, then the sync is Sockeye. And you can just use the name of it. You can also use the URL. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. Actually, it's really quite convenient. But in this case, I just said, just send anything with this event type to Sockeye. So now we can send stuff to Sockeye from our terminal, which was the first thing. Thank you, Vila. I'm also excited that we wanted to achieve. I am going to take a second to have a look at Graph because, I haven't tried it. But after we do that, I will try to go back and I might actually, write some code just for laughs. Okay, I'm going to turn this into a pinned tab because I feel like I'm going to come back to it a bunch of times. Was ist das? Oh, right. This is CloudEvents player. Also excellent. And Sockeye, also Sockeye. Here we go. All right. Visit the root of the graph service in a web browser. All right. Let's see how we go. Diggity ding. Yeah. Okay. Do that over there. Make that full screen again. There we go. All right. Oh, Matt, you're telling me there's an example one? You registered DuckDuckOn.io. That's fantastic. Well, it's too late. I've already pressed enter. We're committed now. There's no turning back. Okie dokie. One piece of advice I guess I would have is tell me what the URL will be when I get to the other side. Because right now, I have a rough idea that it's a service, but I didn't know that in advance. Okay, so can service list. And there we go. I've got graph.default, etc. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So I got broker default, got the ingress. Oh, that's really cool. Nice. I like that. That is some sweet work. Thank you, Scott. That is really very helpful. So I am definitely I can click the boxes and I get a much prettier font if I do. I like that. Well, that email address is not as accurate as it used to be, but it'll still work for people who are planning to send me stuff. Okay, I'm not caring about cap at this stage. All right, so graph is pretty cool. Why don't I have a back button though? Oh, because it's a pop-up. Okay, that makes me sad. I'm going to click on this one. Yeah, I like this. So this is helpful. So let's add that to our list of things that I'm going to pin. You need different favicons though. That would make life easier for me because I'm just going to be doing this which one was it again? Oh, it's a different fish. That's a nice touch. Okay, so graph is pretty cool. We're definitely going to keep that with us on our adventure. The first thing I would like to do now though is to stand up essentially any sort of web thing that serves something. So in the book, I do this, if I remember correctly, in chapter 9. So I'm going to pull up my copy here. Yeah, so I just have this cheapo, lazy, quick, dirty, nasty sort of arrangement that I'm going to do some copy pasta with. And I'm going to do that in Goland because it's a real IDE. And he says right after he breaks it, good work, fella. All right, there we go. What hath I wrought? Okay, so I've got a little bit of thing there. I should be able to inject language. Yeah. HTML. What do you mean? Yeah, I want to permanently inject it. Okay. As if not know the spelling of Knative by now, computer. Really. All right, so there's a log line, which I'm not really going to bother with because I know what I'm doing, right? Okay. And this is where having co is actually really useful And now I'm sort of scratching my head. Do I have Co installed, or do I want to create an image with bill packs? How did I do it? Oh, I closed chapter 9. That's why I can't see where it is. So in chapter 9 of the book, I gave an example of using bill packs because I'm a bit of a pro bill packs lunatic. Do I have Co installed? I do. It's probably a truly ancient version that comes with a warning. Okay. Yes, I do drop things. Co. Do we have it in Bro? Brew. First, let me update everything in the universe. I don't see it, so I think it's one we install by hand-ish. So, what is Co? It's kind of hard to describe. Yeah, so the thing that's really nice about Co is it makes it very easy to work with Go programs and to very quickly iterate on those programs running on Kubernetes. And the source of that magic is this thing here, which is that in a normal sort of a Kubernetes scenario, when you provide the image name, you actually have to provide a proper, OCI or Docker image reference. This computer trying to go to sleep. Stop it. Whereas in this case, what you actually provide is essentially an import path that Go would recognize. And Co sort of takes this, works out how to turn it into an image that runs commands, all this kind of jazz, and can do a whole bunch of stuff with it. I'm going to use Co because I want to get shiny things going. Okay, I'm going to do this because I'm using, well, I'm not really using GCR, but actually I reckon I will because I don't want to deal with Docker right now, like Docker Hub. Local repository, kind is really awesome. Co-publish. Yes. Where are my installation instructions at? Installation. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Okay, go get. Not my favorite thing in the universe, but I often complain about Go and Go-related subjects, as people who know me know. Oh, yes. One of the things that I don't enjoy very much about working in Kubernetes-land as a programming endeavor is that at some point you always wind up importing half of the Kubernetes universe, which is big. Okay, so let's have a look at Co version 6.2, and it's not giving me any warnings. I take that as a good sign. And if I refresh my memory, apply to the input files with image references resolved to build pushed image digests. Okay, so I am going to go back to Scott's repository because it had an example of what I want to do, which is a piece of YAML that creates a Knative service and does magic-y magic to convert it. So let's go back to Goland, both the software and the state of mind. I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call this service.yaml in the interests of vagueness. And of course, I am not using that one. Oh, I see. This is going to be a hassle because I don't really feel like setting up a repo today. If I'm perfectly sincere. Let me have a look at Co. Can I just not bother? Can I just say, what's the Go module? That's a good question. Oh, I don't have one. Well, that was silly of me. So let's create one. So I'm in this one. I'm going to call it Go mod. Stream is really awfully generic. So let's say Twitchy. No, not Go mod Twitchy. Init Twitch E. Okay, so I've got a Go model. Go mod here. It's module Twitchy. So I'm guessing that the idea is that it's like co://twitchy, and that'll do the right thing. Like it'll pick up the path from like the Go context path, whatever it's called. I'm looking right up. Yeah. All right. Let's give it a whirl. Place your bets. Place your bets. Okay. So I'm going to do co apply. And what I need for co apply is, that's not what I wanted. I see. No, I still need to be set up with a registry, don't I? Right. You know what? Let's just try it. Let's just try co apply service YAML and see what happens. Just see what happens. And what happens is kaboom. And that would be because I didn't use the -f command. CoDocker repo environment is unset. I'm going to have a feeling that this is one of those did you read the documentation sort of moments. The data is there, code there, Docker login. See, there was a mention of like GCR before, and now it's somewhere else. Here we go, usage. I got to admit, this is where I would add a step sort of saying like, this is the command you ran next, if that makes sense. So I've like done configure Docker sometime here in the distant, sorry, I'm sitting away from the microphone, in the distant past. So I could basically just do usgcr.io. And so it'd be something like, let me see, I'm gonna Docker repo. And that's the value I want. That is not what I expected to happen. Or is it set? It's been a while. So let's see if I can get that back. Code. Okay, good. And now let's try applying it. So what I'm hoping for it to do is to use my credentials on GCR, Google Container Registry, if you're wondering, to push an image into it. I need a project ID. Interesting. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I will update that. So what is my project ID? And does it reveal any juicy secrets that I shouldn't? I don't think it does. From memory, I'm going to just sneak off stage for a second to have a look at that. If and when this will do what I want. Yes, there we go. There's the normal terminal, by the way. It doesn't have that cool guy just like posing. He was chosen because he was described as Français. And he definitely has the vibe. So I'm coming over here because I want to check with gcloud. What is the name? I think it's just config, isn't it? No, list. Just want to get the name of my project. Okay, yeah, so this is fine. There's no mysteries there. Okay, so that's just a sandbox that I have, and I don't know who that Jacques Chester person is, or if it's a person, who knows, could be a robot. And make sure that that's it, the way I thought it did, and we'll give it another whirl. That looks promising. Yeah, there go the blobs. Pew, pew. Oh. Kubectl should not be used on a thing. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, did I just... you know what I did, which was kind of silly? I didn't change names of things. So now I have written over the top of Sockeye, which is colossally dumb. I wanted to call it Twitchy. So I am a silly sausage. So let's have a look. KN service list. Service. Create. And I'm trying to remember, did I use create or did I use the YAML? I think I used the YAML. Okay. So what I will do is I will reapply the relevant YAML and idempotency and magic and other things you can put in your resume, and it'll get smashed back into the shape I had originally. At least that is the theory that I am holding out all hopes for. But it will have forgotten, this is the thing, by the way, it will have forgotten the things that it received. There's no kind of like guaranteed distributed log that you get with Kafka or what have you. Once it's delivered into wherever it goes, the cloud event, I mean, it's your problem. Okay, I have Sockeye running, and I have Twitchy running somewhere. I think they should probably just be able to, like, Twitchy. Oh, what is this? Right in my feelings. Ugh. Oh, because I haven't done the co-apply yet. Let me double check that I didn't fat finger it again this time. No, that looks more promising. And we will do another co-apply. Okay. Now let's try our luck with Twitchy. There we go. Hello, Knative. We made it. Still not very exciting. For one thing, it does not have any sort of a hit counter. And this breaks at least my heart. I don't know about yours. So really we were sort of a fork in the road. I could have gone down the road of doing, let me pull this diagram back up. This is where we sort of started. I could have started with like the hit counter and been sending events to it directly, or I could start with this one. At the moment, I just have one that most resembles the homepage server. So I'm going to sort of like put that down for a second, and I'm going to create another service. And this service's purpose in life will be to receive cloud events.